Okay, so at this point you should have all your finishing stuff done. And so the next part is to get this part. We're going to get his little fat cheeks in here so we can determine the nose and the mouth area. So I'm going to take, now this is the piece left over for my ears and nose. And I'm going to take a bit of this off, about this much. And I'm going to pull that in half so I have the same, approximately the same size. And this is roughly about 2 inches worth of core wool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to string this. I'm not drafting it. I'm not pulling this longer. I just want this to be a little bit smoother. So I'm going to take this end and we're going to roll this up kind of tight. Tuck this in, roll it again until we get this tube like this. So I'm going to take my 42, I'm going to stab this down a little bit so it holds. It's called tack it down. And then I'm going to start working this in. Now here again, if you are new to needle felting, make sure your finger guards are on because we're not stabbing straight down. We're stabbing at an angle because we want these ends to go inside that tubing that you just made because we need to make this ball shaped. And then flip that over. And we're going to work this in. If you need to, go slow. Okay, felting is not a speed craft. The faster you needle felt, you know, if you're like this, you're going to have a problem because you're going to stab yourself. And it's going to be painful. Take your time. And remember, on these needles like this, from here down is the dangerous part. This up here does nothing for you. So if you're jamming down in here like this, you're wasting all this space. So be careful about stabbing. Do it slowly, carefully. Watch where you're stabbing. Where you stab is the direction the wool is going to go. And if you stab slow, you can control whether or not you get hurt. Now, it's not exactly a ball, but we're going to fix that. So I'm going to rub this around because heat and friction felts wool. And so now we have a ball. Now we're going to do that again. Same thing. I'm going to kind of smooth this out a bit. I'm going to start rolling. I'm going to fold this in, and keep rolling. Now this piece was a little bit bigger, so I'm going to tuck those in again and roll it over. And then tack this down so it doesn't unravel. And then start working the same thing. Working your ends into the center because you need this to be ball shaped. We want to push that in. And yes, that's my cell phone going off. I have family on vacation and they're sending back pictures. So just keep working this into a ball. Watch your fingers. When you get to that certain point, give that a roll around, almost like it's cookie dough and you're going to make a cookie ball. That might be something we do later. Let's make some cookies. So now we have 2 balls. Now this one appears to be slightly larger. So we're going to needle felt a little bit more. That's how you can change the size, especially when you're making 2 of them, because you really don't want your dog to be lopsided. Give it a whirl. Now we're closer to the same size. Now these are a little bit bigger than this guy because he's little, and as you can see, this one is going to be quite a bit larger. So now we got the cheeks done, and this is where that little crease in my wool just happened. So I've kind of designated that. That's where my mouth is going to go. So with that in mind, this is where my tongue is going to stick out of. I need to put his cheeks right in here. So you put these here, line them up. Now if you need to, use a straight pin. If you want to try it and see how this works before you stab this in, you can take and put your cheekbones in like this. Let me get one that's a little longer. Yeah, about like that. And you can see, you have to give yourself room to felt this in and see if that's where you want them. And it's a nice, easy way to check. So I like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to start working this in on the sides, because you don't want to lose all that roundness that you just put in. So we're going to connect right here at the side, right here. If you can see that, right here. So the wool that's here, I'm going to push that in at that angle because I want this to stay rounded. And then work yourself around all the way around this. We'll do some felting on the top and bring this down a bit, so it doesn't look like, he's been bit by a rattlesnake and he's swelled up or anything. But we want to get this in place first before we do any other shaping. Plus we got whisker indications to put in too, and that will flatten, that'll flatten your cheek down some. So it's kind of like a plan ahead thing. Okay, so now we're going to put in the other cheek right over here, like this. You can see how that's going to start settling in, especially where that mouth kind of happened. And we're going to do the same thing again. Tap that in on the sides and get that in. I'm trying to work here with you. And it's okay if your 2 little cheeks right here butt together, and then you can actually take and go at this angle and push some of this down into the other cheek, and that helps to anchor your puppy's cheekbones in place. Now if you're new, you're probably stabbing hard, and that is a probability. And if not, even if you're stabbing light, you may not like this definitive line where you have joined. You can cover that just take a little pinch, like, remember Bob Ross, 2 hairs and some air? Do that. And lightly go over that area where you had a defined line and blend it all in. Blend it into the head and around this way. And you can see that defined line where I added the cheek is now gone because it's all blended in with some loose fibers. And see here, we've got it again. So we're going to take just a little bit, about that much. I'm not even sure that's a pinch. And then you can blend this in, and it will hide where you made your joins. And it looks more completed. Now, if you're going to cover your little puppy with a color, you don't have to worry about that. I'm going to leave this one cream colored. Seeing how that's the project. Now, it kind of looks like feet. Looks like little stubby feet. At this point, I'm going to tack this down a little bit more in the middle because it's getting a little bit too bolsterous. We want to bring these cheeks down just a bit, because then when we put the whisker dots in, it's going to bring it down a little bit more. Okay, there we go. Okay, so at this point, go ahead and finish up your little cheek bubbles here and get them where you need them to be. And then we will put the nose in.